Humanity will reach a point where its population is incredibly vast, stretching across the entire globe, yet it holds absolutely no true weight, substance, or influence. It's described beautifully, but tragically, as being like the foam of the flood. Think about that for a second. You have this fleeting, hollow foam carried helplessly on the chaotic surface of a crashing flood. In this phase, society becomes entirely directionless. We become deeply entangled in superficial, fleeting desires and crippled by an overwhelming collective fear of mortality, having completely severed our spiritual anchor. The masses are just swept along by the current, utterly powerless to change their own trajectory. And in this tragic era of moral weightlessness, truth and illusion seamlessly trade places. We witness the devastating rise of the ruwaybada. This is a concept that represents a profound moral inversion infecting every single level of daily life. The genuinely wise and experienced, they're sidelined and silenced. Meanwhile, the deeply ignorant, the unqualified, and frankly, the most despicable individuals are thrust right into the brightest spotlights. They're granted massive platforms to guide the desperate masses. Through modern illusions and twisted narratives, deceit is openly celebrated as brilliant strategy, and true, grounded wisdom is treated with deep suspicion. The loudest voices are literally the emptiest, leading a bewildered public further into the dark. Alongside this crippling societal inversion comes a deeply unsettling, almost psychological phenomenon. It's the acceleration of time itself. Now, it's not that the physical hours in a day have actually changed, but rather, time is entirely stripped of its fundamental blessing. As humanity tirelessly chases these empty, fleeting desires, grinding through an endless cycle of material pursuit, a year begins to feel like a mere month. A day vanishes before it can even be comprehended, gone like a spark of light in the wind. People wake up, exhausted, only to find the sun setting once again. There's this profound, suffocating sense of spiritual emptiness as our days simply evaporate into nothingness. This complete loss of moral direction inevitably plunges the world into a horrific, dark phase known as Harj. Now, this isn't just conventional warfare or typical political conflict. It's a terrifying era of rampant, senseless, and entirely unending bloodshed right in the streets and homes of everyday people. It describes a tragic, chaotic reality where the killer literally does not comprehend the reason he pulls the trigger or swings the blade, and the victim falls to the earth without ever knowing why they had to die. Human life completely loses its sacred value, becoming as cheap as dirt. And from this profound societal and moral decay, the timeline shifts violently. We move from the slow, agonizing unraveling of society to the sudden, catastrophic emergence of the ultimate cosmic tests for humanity. The world is about to face its most terrifying trial, an event that shatters the very boundaries of reality as we know it. The apocalyptic catalysts, the arrival of the final deceiver. Emerging directly into this global chaos is the final deceiver, a figure of unparalleled supernatural manipulation. His time on Earth is strictly limited to 40 days, but let me tell you, these are no ordinary days. His physical presence actively distorts the fabric of time and reality itself. Imagine the absolute psychological torment here. His first day will stretch out, holding the sun in the sky, to feel like an entire agonizing year. His second day feels like a month, and his third like a week. Shadows remain frozen in place. Natural sleep schedules are completely shattered. The sheer physical and mental exhaustion of a single day stretching into the length of a year pushes human endurance and faith far past their absolute breaking points. But the deceiver's greatest weapon against humanity isn't brute force. It's profound, emotionally devastating psychological manipulation. He'll perform seemingly impossible feats using terrifying demonic illusions. He will actually go to the cruel extreme of conjuring dark, perfect apparitions that exactly mimic the deceased parents of his vulnerable victims. Just imagine that. These apparitions will beg their living children to submit to the deceiver. Through these heart-wrenching, impossible emotional traps, he'll falsely claim absolute, undeniable divinity. It is the ultimate test, perfectly designed to separate those with anchored, unshakable faith from those drowning in vulnerable desperation and grief. Yet, precisely when the darkness seems entirely insurmountable and all hope appears completely lost, a breathtaking, cinematic, celestial event occurs. At the very break of dawn, bathed in the soft morning light, near the white minaret of eastern Damascus, Isa, Jesus, makes his awe-inspiring descent from the heavens. Supported by the physical wings of angels, he arrives with a singular, decisive, and unstoppable mission. He will actively track the terrified deceiver across the land, cornering him at the historical Gate of Lud, eliminating him, and shattering his global illusions once and for all. The Swarm Unleashed. The breaking of the ancient barrier. So, with the deceiver vanquished, a brief, tearful moment of hope washes over the survivors. But this fragile peace is instantly shattered. An ancient barrier that has physically held back a global catastrophe for millennia is suddenly and violently breached. This is the release of Ya'juj and Ma'juj, historically known to many as Gog and Magog. Now, we're not talking about a conventional, organized military army here. This is an innumerable, chaotic human swarm. They sweep across the surface of the earth like violently crashing, unstoppable tidal waves, entirely devoid of mercy, reason, or communication. Their singular, terrifying function is utter devastation, devouring every conceivable natural resource in their path. To really comprehend their sheer, mind-bending magnitude, just consider their catastrophic passage through the massive Lake Tiberias. The vanguard of this frenzied swarm is so impossibly huge that as they pass, they will drink this massive body of water entirely dry. Millions upon millions of gallons, consumed in a singular, chaotic frenzy. By the time the rear of the screaming swarm finally arrives at the basin, they will walk across cracked mud, finding absolutely nothing but dust, marveling to themselves that water ever existed in that barren gorge at all. It's a truly terrifying scale of consumption. Against a tide of this magnitude, human weapons, defenses, and strategies are entirely useless. The remaining survivors, led by Isa, are completely trapped. They seek refuge high up on Mount Tur, looking down at an endless sea of destruction. They're starving, exhausted, and completely stripped of hope, listening to the deafening, roaring swarm echoing from below. They raise desperate, weeping prayers to the heavens. And the divine response? It isn't a massive lightning bolt or a rain of fire. It's actually something incredibly subtle. Nagfuf. A tiny, microscopic parasitic worm is sent down from the sky, silently striking the necks of the invincible swarm. In a sudden, eerie silence, millions fall simultaneously, wiping out the menace in a single instant and covering the entire earth in their ruin. Following this horrific, unimaginable devastation, the earth undergoes a miraculous, divine cleansing. Massive, supernatural birds descend to carry away the decaying remnants, and heavy, purifying rains wash the globe until the ground gleams like a perfectly polished, shining mirror. This ushers in an era of unprecedented global peace and breathtaking abundance. The soil becomes so incredibly fertile and blessed that the hollowed-out shell of a single massive pomegranate will be large enough to provide cooling shade for an entire group of men. But as beautiful as that is, this golden age of peace is really merely the quiet before the absolute ultimate storm. As generations pass and faith once again slowly dwindles into nothingness, we are guided out of this era of abundance. Cosmic upheavals. The natural order collapses. Now, a terrifying chronological sequence of global events unfolds, signaling that the physical laws governing our universe are definitively collapsing. First, the Earth's very stability completely shudders, with 3 massive continent-swallowing global sinkholes, one in the east, one in the west, and one in the Arabian Peninsula. Then, a thick, suffocating cosmic smoke descends from the sky, enveloping the entire planet and plunging humanity into darkness. This is swiftly followed by the ultimate, undeniable inversion of nature itself, the sun rising from the west, and finally, a colossal, gathering fire that drives all remaining life in sheer panic toward a single, final gathering place. The moment the sun breaks the horizon from the west is arguably the most chilling moment in human history, purely due to its absolute finality. People will wake up, look to the western horizon, and realize with utter dread what has just happened. This cosmic anomaly signals the permanent, irreversible closing of the doors of repentance. From this exact second onward, any newfound belief, any terrified prayer, or any desperate plea for forgiveness is rendered entirely void. The panic of knowing that apologies are no longer accepted by the cosmos is absolute. It is the definitive cutoff point for the human soul. Immediately following this terrifying sunrise, the very ground shifts. Tectonic plates part to reveal a mysterious, supernatural creature, Dabat al-Ard, the beast of the earth. This is an entity of terrifying and awe-inspiring physical presence. It emerges from the dust with a specific, undeniable purpose. It speaks directly to mankind in human languages, and it physically marks the faces of humanity. It permanently and visibly distinguishes those whose hearts held true faith with a radiant mark from those who succumbed to wickedness, branding them with darkness. The era of hidden intentions is over. The ultimate visible division of humanity has occurred. But before the final, violent destruction of the planet begins, an act of profound, heartbreaking, divine mercy takes place. A gentle, exceptionally fragrant, silken wind sweeps up from the south, carrying the scent of musk. Anyone left on Earth with even a microscopic grain of true faith in their heart will breathe in this beautiful wind and peacefully pass away, entirely spared from the looming horror. Only the absolute worst, the most corrupt and wicked of humanity, will be left behind alive. They are completely abandoned to witness and endure the ultimate, violent terror of the end of the physical world.
The final trumpet, the cosmos unravels.
The narrative now builds toward its absolute ultimate climax. The focus shifts entirely away from the ruined earth and up to the heavens, to the solemn, ancient waiting of the angel Israfel. With the grand cosmic trumpet already raised to his lips, his unblinking gaze is fixed, awaiting the single, ultimate command that will bring the universe to an abrupt and violent halt. And then, the deafening blast echoes. The sky above violently ruptures, turning a terrifying, glowing crimson, resembling boiling, molten leather. The stars lose their ancient gravitational anchors and scatter blindly into the dark void. The vast, deep oceans down below don't simply dry up. They violently ignite into roaring, inextinguishable columns of fire. The very bedrock of the earth shatters under the impossible sound, grinding itself into fine, floating dust. All biological life is extinguished. As the final, catastrophic echoes of destruction slowly fade into the dark, an absolute, chilling silence falls over the void. The heavens and the earth have been violently rolled up like a scroll. In this profound, terrifying emptiness, the Creator asks a rhetorical, universe-shattering question out into the dark. Whose is the kingdom today? Met with utter, absolute silence from the dead universe, the Creator answers his own unanswerable question. It belongs to the One, the Supreme. Then comes a deeply mysterious interim, represented by the number 40. Though whether it's 40 days, 40 months, or 40 years remains entirely unknown to human comprehension. This is a profound, silent epoch between the two trumpet blasts. Imagine an emptiness so profound that it's almost physical. There is no light to pierce the dark, no gravity to pull, no wind, no sound, no movement whatsoever. It's a state of absolute, total cosmic zero. It is the breathtaking emptiness of a universe holding its breath before the final, ultimate act of creation is initiated. The resurrection. Life from the dust. Finally, the total cosmic silence is broken by a supernatural, life-giving rain descending from the unseen heavens. Now, this isn't water as we know it, but a divine, biological catalyst. As it soaks the barren, dusty remnants of the earth, human bodies begin to miraculously sprout. From absolute destruction, every individual who ever lived is perfectly reconstructed, growing rapidly like thick vegetation from the tiny, indestructible coccyx bone at the base of the spine. Then, the piercing, inescapable sound of the second trumpet blast shatters the quiet. Countless trillions of suspended souls rush back like a massive swarm, to their newly formed host bodies, violently waking to the awe-inspiring, inescapable reality of the Day of Judgment. The grand cycle has concluded, evolving from the weightless foam of the flood to this inescapable, eternal permanence.